3 years ago, I put out Gambit builds with each of the Hunter subclasses, but now in 2023, and with all the changes to Destiny 2, those are a little bit outdated. So let's update them for Witch Queen and see if they're still good. And today we're going to be talking about the unlimited ability Solar Hunter build. Let's get into the class and see what we're going to be using. First up, we're going to be using the Golden Gun Deadshot. I absolutely love using this in Gambit just because invading, sometimes you can get those 4-for-1s. It just is so satisfying. Definitely one of my favorite supers to use in Gambit. Blade Barrage, though, also does work really well. You can do a ton of damage to the Prime Evil at the end, and it does end up working pretty well in this build. Now onto our abilities. We want to make sure we get Gambler's Dodge, which is going to recharge our melee ability when we dodge near enemies. We're going to be grabbing Triple Jump. For our melee, we're going to be taking the Knife Trick. And then for our grenade, we want to make sure we're grabbing that Trip Mine grenade. We'll get into why in a little bit. For our aspects, very simple. We're just going with On Your Mark and Knock them down. And now we're going to get into our fragments, which are kind of what are the upgrades to this build from 2020. I tried to keep it relatively the same, but once we get into the fragments, that's where we get some really nice bonuses. As you'll start to see with this build, we're going to be using a lot of our grenades and throwing knives. So we're going to be doing a ton of solar damage with our abilities. So we want to stack that with Scorch and Ignition. And what Scorch is going to do is essentially after enough stacks are applied to a target, they're going to ignite, and once they ignite, it's a big solar explosion which deals damage in an area around the target. So while we're throwing knives, while we're throwing grenades, enemies are getting scorched, they're igniting, they're blowing up, they're doing damage to all the enemies around them. It just works out so well. So first up is going to be Ember of Singeing, which is just going to give us class ability recharge as we scorch targets, which we're going to be doing a lot of. Then we grab Ember of Char, which is our solar ignitions are going to spread scorch to other targets. So we're stacking scorch on one target, they're going to ignite. Other targets are going to get scorched, they're going to ignite, and so on and so forth. It'll just be a chain reaction of solar damage. After that, we grab Ember of Blistering. Defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy, which is going to work really well with this build. And then we also grab Ember of Searing, which is pretty much the same thing, but scorched targets are now going to grant melee energy. So we get melee and grenade just off scorched targets and ignited targets. And then finally, we grab Ember of Ashes just to apply more scorch to targets. So now moving on over to the armor, and this is what brings the entire build together, and also why we're using Trip Mines. We're going to be using the Young Ahamkara's Spine Gauntlets. The armor perk is Wish Dragon Teeth, which increases Trip Mine grenade duration and blast radius, but more importantly, ability damage grants Trip Mine grenade energy. So every time we throw the throwing knives, we get our Trip Mine grenades back, and every single time we dodge, we get our throwing knife back. So the cycle is throwing knife, Trip Mine, dodge, throwing knife, Trip Mine, and the cycle continues, and you are just doing so much solar damage, AoE damage, burst damage. It is just so crazy. Now we can even take that a step further. If we go over to our exotic weapon, we're going to be using the Monte Carlo auto rifle, which intrinsic trait is Monte Carlo method. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully recharge your melee ability with each kill. So let's say you get into an encounter and you don't have your throwing knife, you don't have your Trip Mine, you don't have your dodge. Well, all you got to do is put like 1 or 2 clips into some enemies with the Monte Carlo. You got your throwing knife back, and you can just restart the cycle over and over again. It is literally unlimited throwing knives, unlimited Trip Mine grenades, and it starts to get crazy, especially when you're at the Prime Evil and you're just trying to nuke that health bar down. You will just constantly be throwing knives, putting a clip into the Prime Evil, throwing a grenade, throwing knives, putting a clip in, dodging, getting your throwing knives back. The cycle is just so crazy. You guys have to try it out. Once you get into the flow with it, it is so much fun. But that's going to be our updated Solar Hunter unlimited abilities build. Let me know how you guys would change it. I kind of wanted to keep it true to what it was back in 2020, but now in 2023, so many new armors, so many new exotic weapons. Let me know how you guys would update this or make it even better. But we also have 2 more subclasses that we can revisit in Witch Queen, and that's going to be the Void and the Arc Hunter. If you guys want to see that, be sure to let me know by leaving a like down below. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future Destiny 2 videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.